important. We're not going to get super in depth with any of the topics today, but like Shannon said, please feel free to throw questions in the chat, or you can wait until the end and we will have time for questions as well. So this presentation today is called Mastering Your Finances. And we are just going to start with a few slides about talking about our weighing our wants versus our needs. So when you're building a budget, it's important for you to know what category your expenses fall into. And we like to talk about weighing your wants versus needs because sometimes that can be a somewhat confusing question to ask yourself. So a want is typically a desire and something that you could live without, and a need is essential. So living without it would cause extreme hardship or some type of struggle. The slide here says, don't be afraid to ask yourself the tough questions when it comes to goals and spending, such as, do I need it now? And if you don't need this item immediately, can you wait for it? And what would happen if you didn't have it at all or don't have it immediately? When you talk about weighing your wants and needs, it can be a tough question. Typically, I'm giving this presentation to some younger groups of students. So we give the example of, you need transportation for a lot of things in life. You need that to get to work. You need it to get to and from home, all those things. So you need transportation, and you might want a brand new car. But that is when you have to ask yourself that tough question, can I afford the brand new car? And people get confused. They say, well, I need a car because I need transportation, but it often comes down to, what can you really afford? When you're looking at setting up a budget for yourself, it's always good to have some goals in mind. When we look at financial goal setting, we look at 3 different categories, and those are short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. Short-term goals are something that you can plan and save for and accomplish it in 1 year or less. A midterm goal is usually in that 1 to 3 year range, and a long-term goal is something that is going to take you 3 or more years to plan and save for. We understand that you are going to probably have multiple goals going all at once, but if you just want to focus on one financial goal at a time, that's okay too. In order to set up your budget, you want to know the cost of your goal and the date that you want to achieve that goal by, so that you can divide the price by the time frame and find out how much money you need to save, whether that is for the month, for the week, for your pay period, however you want to divide it. Knowing those 2 pieces of information will help you set that part of your budget. And then finally, when building a budget, you want to be prepared for setbacks. A big reason that we sometimes see budgets fail or struggle is because people are very rigid in what they want their budget to look like. And when things come up that are unexpected or unplanned for, they might allow that to derail their entire budget. But if you can plan with and be prepared for setbacks in mind, then you are less likely to see your budget struggle or fail. When you're creating a budget, the steps are pretty simple. You want to analyze the present and prepare for the future. So that means you're tracking your spending and then planning for your spending and savings, which is what equals a budget. Your expenses should never exceed your income. If that is a situation that you find yourself in, that means you're incurring some debt and will need to come up with a plan for how you're going to cover those expenses. And then also, you always want to include savings in your budget, which we call pay yourself first. If your budget is not working out the way that you want it to, you obviously need to look at either decreasing expenses or increasing your income. Depending on what stage of life you are in, one of those might be easier than the other. It's typically easier to decrease expenses than it is to increase your income, especially if you are someone who is working a full-time job, or you are already working a side hustle or have an extra stream of income. It can be really difficult to increase your income versus decreasing those expenses. And then, like I said, understanding the difference between your wants and your needs. Here we have just a simple chart that you can use to help yourself analyze your income. We have it split into your gross or your pre-tax, and then your net or your post-tax dollars. So when we're looking at a budget, we do want to see what that gross figure is, but always want to be planning just based on the net figure. So on this screen, we've listed out jobs. You might have support from different sources. Other could be a side job or a hobby that generates income. And we do have loan advances listed on this income chart. However, we do want to kind of discourage anyone from using loan advances as a part of your normal income. That can be a very, very easy way to start incurring debt, and you want to always have a plan for paying back your debt. On the flip side of that, we can use a very similar chart to analyze your spending. These are based on worksheets that we can provide to you. So if any of this looks good or interesting or just something that you want to look into further, feel free to reach out to either Ashley or I or both of us, and we can get you some materials and resources that can help you with this. On this chart, we have just some general expenses that a lot of people incur in adulthood. So we have rent, utilities, groceries, a gym membership. Like we said, we always want to include savings and then any loan payments you have. We have one column for current and then proposed. So if you are looking at your budget, you are analyzing all of your expenses and you're realizing that those expenses are outweighing your income, that's where you can utilize that proposed column and set a better goal for yourself with less spending. Budgeting all comes down to the bottom line, and that is what is left over at the end of your month. So you take your total income minus your total expenses, and hopefully that balance at the end is either going to be 0 or a positive number. If that balance at the end is a negative number, that means that you have incurred some debt throughout your month and will need a plan for how you're going to cover that expense. So how can you stay on track? You can be aware of your spending. A lot of people like to take the opportunity to write down every dollar that they're spending and where they spent it. Prepare for your upcoming expenses. So be very aware of when your mortgage or rent is due. When is your car payment due? Do you have a set day of the week that you do your grocery shopping so that you can expect to be spending the same money on the same dates? That all comes with staying organized. So find a method that works best for you. I'm a paper and pencil type of girl, so I like to write everything down. You might be someone who is very well versed in using a spreadsheet. So I encourage you to search through Excel or Google Sheets. They have pre-made templates, or you can come up with one on your own. And then there are also lots of apps and computer software out there. So another thing I encourage you all to do is whatever financial institution you work with, see if there are any budgeting tools embedded within your financial institution's mobile app. Those are typically free to use if your financial institution pays for that as a third-party vendor, and can be a really, really great tool to use that is typically pretty low effort on your end. Visions used to use a tool called FinSavvy that would simply pull all of your spending history. So anytime you swipe your debit card or any other attached credit cards or accounts, it would compile all of that information in the app and show it to you in a cute little way. So if you have a financial institution that you work with, you want to exhaust those options first, because like I said, they can be very low effort. And again, that all comes with monitoring your progress. So set a goal for yourself. If you are setting your budget on a monthly basis, maybe you want to check in with it every 2 weeks or once a month. And maybe when you're first starting out with budgeting, you want to be more you want to be checking in on your progress more often than once you get a little bit more well-versed in the budgeting. And then, like we talked about a few slides ago, always expect setbacks. As we all know, life is unexpected and things are happening that we can't anticipate all the time. So we want to make sure that we have a little bit of cushion in our budget and we're not going to let setbacks just totally derail the plans that we have for ourselves. This is probably information that everyone knows, but I will go ahead and share it anyway. Savings and checking accounts are your two typical kinds of accounts that you're going to have at a bank or a credit union. Typically, your savings account is going to be used for emergency funds, so anything that might be unexpected in life. You might also use this as a financial goal fund, so you're setting just a dollar amount that you want to save and you're keeping it in savings. And then you can save for retirement in a typical savings account. On the flip side of that, we have our checking accounts, which are typically your everyday spending. Your direct deposit from your job might go into your checking account, and then you can get paper checks and a debit card attached to that checking account.
Okay, thank you so much, Lucy. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Layton. I work with Lucy, as she mentioned, as a financial wellness officer. So basically, our job is to assist members and non-members in the community however they need. So we do this in a variety of ways and have been fortunate to work with the incubator a lot. So thanks for having us again. Thanks for being here today. After what Lucy reviewed, we're just going to dive into credit scores. We find that this is Something that everyone talks about, but a little bit misunderstood at times as to what determines that credit score. So this is a chart that we like to show, so people are more aware of what factors really impact their credit. So as you can see, 35% of your credit score, which is a large chunk, is just your payment history. So you can really keep your credit score at a good rating just by making your payments on time. I know we all have those reminder emails, or I use my Google Calendar all the time to remind me of payments due, automatic payments even, just so I'm reminded that these things are being paid and that they're coming out. 30% is any outstanding debt that you have out there, which is another large chunk of your credit score. Your credit history length, 15%, pursuit of new credit, 10%, and then the credit mix. So they want to see a variety of secured, unsecured, assets such as vehicles, mortgages, HELOCs, things like that, that serve as that collateral for you, as well for those secured lines. So these things make up your credit score, and how you address each one of those can, either raise your credit score or, decrease your credit score. There are a lot of free credit monitoring softwares out there, so I highly recommend at least doing it once a month. If you can, I believe that after COVID, it got to be free. Instead of just once a year, you can do it just about as many times as you like. So there are definitely some great credit report softwares out there to use. Oh, didn't move for me, there we go. So when would your credit be checked? If you're renting an apartment, we've been seeing that a lot lately. Potentially applying for a job. I know that working at a financial institution, in order to work here, you have to be financially secure. So that's one thing that when looking for, future opportunities, if you want to work at a financial institution or in wealth advising, anything like that, they might want to check your credit. Signing up for utilities, phone services, cable, if you want to get insurance. So that's a newer one that we've been seeing as well, or of course applying for loans, which is pretty standard. Getting that copy of your credit report, you can look at annualcreditreport.com. So that's one of the best ones that we've recommended as well. Okay. And then credit cards, we all most likely have them. They're a gift and a curse at the same time. I think we can all agree on that. Using them the right way can definitely get you in that great credit score situation as well. There's unsecured credit cards, there's secured credit cards, and then there's specific store and gas cards that you can use for points, rewards, things like that, that can give you back as well. Research your cards. There are so many out on the market, some better than others, of course. We try to advise not to get anything with an annual fee. There are a lot of free credit cards out there. So what would be worth it to you to pay for a credit card, to have that annual fee? There's a lot of good ones that are just offered. The payments arrangements, and then also the interest rates. Try to go with, whether it's your credit union or bank, try to find that lowest interest rate, because again, that's just money you're giving them. Especially if you're carrying that balance month to month, that's really when people get into those really bad debt situations. Make sure your grace periods if you are having a tougher month. If it's harder to make your payments, know that you have that 14 days or whatever it may be to make your payment without it being reported to your credit report, and without it penalizing you or, giving you that negative remark on your credit score report. And then of course the fees like we discussed. All right, so obviously the goal is to aim to stay out of debt. A lot of this can be done with what Lucy was talking about with budgeting, setting aside a savings account for anything. There's a lot of people out there that will say, each dollar has a purpose. So each dollar you make, whether it's going to, your vehicle expenses, your house expenses, vacation, food budgeting, things like that. There are a lot of our members that have an account for every single one of those things. And there's a certain amount of dollars they allocate weekly or monthly, biweekly, however they get paid, that goes into those categories. And that's how they make their budgets. I know with us, it's very easy to open up savings accounts. So I'm assuming it's like that across the board. So if you have something you're saving for, just take it right out and put it into a separate account, out of sight, out of mind. The idea is to stay out of debt. So planning for those things in advance can really help you down the road. Always pay more than the minimum if you can, even if it's $5 more, $10 more. It doesn't have to be double, your monthly payment. Anything helps chip away at that balance. Pay on time or automatically if you can. And then limit the number of cards you do have. So we always have to have maybe one for an emergency, two perhaps. If you travel a lot, maybe you like the frequent flyer miles. So decide which cards mean the most to you and then limit the ones that you do have. Tracking your spending is a big thing that we try to recommend. Like Lucy said, there's a lot of free tracking software out there. Some have smaller like monthly payments if depending on what they do and how in depth they are. But there are some free tracking apps out there that can help you. Stick to cash if you can. And then keep your information safe and secure. We have all, I'm sure, heard stories about all the fraudulent activity that's out there. We especially see it. I know Lucy and I probably get those personal texts from family and friends saying, hey, is this really Visions? And 9 times out of 10, it's probably not Visions. So you have to be very aware of who's emailing you, who's texting you, who's calling you, what information they're requesting, and safeguard that information, treat it as if it is your livelihood, because it is. You don't want to give out that information to someone that will misuse it. I see a question. I'm not sure. Okay, gotcha. All right, perfect. Let's see. And then invest in your future. It's never too early or too late to start saving for your future. Understand what you have, whether it's with your employer and your retirement, your pension, any investment you have out there. Know how to invest. And if you don't know how to invest, have a free consultation. There's always someone looking to help you get started. And there's no right or wrong amount to start investing. So if you have 5,000 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, there's always ways that you can allocate that money. And I know that, we have some really great people that we work with that are very educated on the topic. So, reach out to the people that the institutions that you bank with. There's always people that can give you that consultation and help you get started. So you're set up for the long run too, right? Because we don't always just want to live paycheck to paycheck, budgeting for this, and this. We want to know that someday we're going to be in a financially secure situation. Stay calm and head for success. So we suggest creating that plan, automating your savings. So again, out of sight, out of mind, have it come out of your account the same day your paycheck goes in, so it's automatically out of there, less for you to spend. Lower your spending if you can, look at all of your streaming services. How often do you use them? Is there one you can live without? These are questions that we talk about in our financial counseling sessions. And then can you see the progress over time? And if you're not paying $20 a month for Netflix, where are you putting that 20? So again, allocating where these dollars are going. Because if they're in the account, they're easier to spend, as we know. And then we always say money isn't everything, but it's close. We don't want to live just for the money, but at the same time, it can make life a little bit easier if we plan a little bit better. Have those goals, take chances, and experience life. The more you save, the more you have a plan, the more financially secure you'll feel, the less stress that you'll have when it comes to finances. If you take our advice about the credit and savings and trust the process, you will be on that road to success, but it can take time, so you can't just expect to see these rewards overnight. Sometimes it takes a year or two or longer if you are currently in a debt situation. You have to really work hard to get yourself out of that so you can then be fruitful on the other end. So, be patient with yourself, your partner, whoever you have, work on these goals together, and see where that can take you. So that's what we've got so far for, Lucy and I's portion. We did invite one of our wealth management people to be here as well. We saw some questions that were submitted before the presentation. So I'm not sure if Alyssa is on the call. Okay, perfect.
I am.
Awesome. So I know Shannon, you had some of those questions. Did you want to dive into those ones that were previously sent, and we can see if Alyssa has some answers for the people that submitted them?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pop those up. Okay, Alyssa, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course.
I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you so everyone can see you. So we had a question that was submitted with registration, and it had asked about information on payroll, taxation, and government-free credit. I'm not sure if the person that asked that is on the call,
Okay.
but they were looking for information on that.
So when it comes to specifically with like taxation, we do have a lot of those questions specifically in retirement. We can't necessarily advise as we are financial advisors, but we do work very closely with a CPA. So we have what is it? A platform and a program where we can do like a mock 1040 to kind of give people a rough idea of what taxes look like. But when they do want more of a deeper dive, we do refer over to a CPA that we work very closely with. So that one I wouldn't want to touch on too much just because I really can't advise on that. With government credits, that's also kind of the same thing. That's also where we kind of pull in a specific tax advisor or CPA to look at your individual position. And then with your permission, we, grant him access to the wealth portion. So what we would manage is your portfolio. So you can see kind of hand in hand everything that you bring to the table. And then he can kind of give you more of an idea of where you can find those credits, where you can find those tax write-offs, and see maybe if we need to withhold more or less. So that would be really where I would advise to kind of actually kind of wander out from visions, but we can still refer you to someone that we trust. Is there any more questions?
That's great. Thank you. The only other question that we had that was submitted previously, it touched on investment readiness, and I think that probably came from our startup, one of our startups or our members.
Okay.
But yeah, just information about investment readiness, where someone needs to be, some details surrounding that.
Okay. So I would say when we look at investment readiness, we really kind of lean on what the financial wellness department does as a whole. We look to see like where are your debts, where is all this interest being paid to? Do you have some savings built up? So if in an emergency, you don't need to pull from your investments because one, if we can kind of set it aside, we really want that to be a long-term bucket. If that's, especially when you start young. And if it is, say, a startup and you're looking to build like a retirement plan, you really don't want to touch those assets until you hit retirement age because you will pay taxes on them and there will be penalties for breaking those. So, and you're also paying us for the services. So having to pull that money out, we really lean on what the financial wellness department does in regards to building up that savings, seeing what's within your budget, what's really feasible. So we lean on that a lot. And then if they've ever invested before, and if they haven't, what they would be comfortable with. So we try to, especially in the first meeting or two, we want to be sure that we kind of explain what the different products and whatnot are. A lot of people don't know what's out there. So a lot of it's informational gathering in the beginning. And again, seeing where all of your assets lie, where your debts are, and if it's really beneficial for you to start investing at this point. Because one, we're fiduciaries, so we want to make sure it's truly in the best interest of the client and the member. And we really, as Visions employees, we really want to do what's right for them anyway. So I would definitely say kind of look at your budget overall and then definitely shop around. So there's a lot of, I don't mean to like sell away, but there's a lot of advisors in this area. And maybe you don't mesh with one that you go to with your normal branch. That's okay. So maybe shop around a little bit within Visions. Maybe you like how one FC works versus another. Maybe you like that there's a team aspect or the individual that you just meet with the same person each and every time. So I definitely encourage people to also shop around because different advisors look at different things. They have preferred different products. Definitely, you know, this is someone you're going to have kind of a relationship with. Make sure you like and you trust who's taking your money and in working with you. So I would definitely look at that as well. And don't be afraid to ask about like fees. A lot of people kind of get wrapped up in it and are so nervous and just want to kind of get it over with that they don't ask where the fees are. And then when you're signing the paperwork, like, oh, there's this fee, you're kind of caught in the middle of the paperwork. And you don't, you know, at that moment, a lot of people don't want to say no because they've already kind of picked you and committed to you. I would definitely, again, with that, shop around, see what the fees are and if they're reasonable for what your expectations are for the people. Industry average is normally 1 to 2%. So if they're doing a lot more, where they're looking at like your taxes and they're meeting with you with your CPAs and they're doing like estate planning and whatnot, maybe that would warrant a higher fee. So I would definitely look at what they're bringing to the table and what their fee is in relation to that. Because that's just one more thing you're going to have to factor into your budget specifically for investing. I'm seeing questions pop up.
I can go ahead and read those. So
Yeah.
Emily has asked if you have an IRA and now you are in an institution that is building a 401k with you, should you keep that IRA separate or roll it together with the new 401k?
With that one, that's a great question. So with that, if you have a 401k, I would definitely, what's another thing we look at is, do you have a 401k if you're looking to build up retirement assets? If you do you max that out? Because you're going to get that tax credit. Those expenses are wrapped right into that account. The options are normally pretty limited, but it's still money you're putting aside for retirement. With an IRA that you have separate, you can see not all 401ks accept IRAs. So I would definitely ask HR first before you try to really look too much into it, see if that's plausible. And then look at your expenses. So what is your IRA? What do those expenses look like compared to your 401k? What are your options within that IRA versus your 401k? Do you have a really, really good portfolio set up that's just outperforming those fees and can outperform that 401k? I'd bring all of those to the table and kind of weigh them. So if your IRA, the fees are minimal and you really like the products that you're in and it's really performing, and especially since the market's been hitting all-time highs, like if you're really in that market participating area, I would definitely kind of consider your options and see if it's better to keep it as an IRA versus a 401k.
And then Maria asked, are Vision's financial consultants certified financial planners and are they fiduciaries?
So we as Vision's employees are fiduciaries. We do have that best interest standard that we meet. And we definitely are very proud of that as Vision's employees. And the CFPs, I work on a team. So one of my partners is a CFP. My goal is to get my CFP in the next few years. And then we have a couple of CFPs throughout the whole program, but not all consultants here are CFPs.
And then Emily asked a follow-up question. Where can we get our performance info on a 401k? Would that be something that HR can help us with?
You should be able to look at that right on your statement. So if you have a quarterly or monthly statement, there should be like a quarter to date, year to date, maybe even a monthly to date that has a percentage. And that percentage would be based like what you actually have accumulated, the percentage on that account. And if you ever have questions on that in regards to, so say you kind of want to weigh that out, if you want to, there's always the opportunity where you can meet with a Vision's consultant and we can kind of look and compare like what does your 401k look like versus the IRA, and we can kind of help you weigh those options to see what's beneficial for you. And even if you just have questions on paperwork or statements, it can be very confusing. There's a lot of jargon and a lot of fine print and disclosures, and it confuses and overwhelms a lot of people. So if you ever even have questions, you don't have to meet specifically about investing. Even if you just have questions on paperwork with things that you already have, that's another thing that we do. We're a resource just for that too.
I had a quick kind of question.
Okay.
Alyssa, can you touch on why it's important for, so I hear wealth management and I think people with trust funds or people with tons of assets and millions in the bank. Can you touch a little bit on why it's important for kind of like the layperson that is trying to set themselves up for their future in retirement, maybe to meet with a financial planner or a wealth manager?
Absolutely. So I think that was one of the things that we were a little hesitant as advisors when they were going through the whole wealth management rebrand was that misconception that it's only for wealth. They did that more to encompass all the things that we bring to the table. So the tax advisors that we work with, the actual trust and estate team, we have the Medicare team. So it's more all encompassing, but it is misleading with just wealth. We don't have a minimum for accounts that we have. Everybody needs help. That's what we're here for. So with that being said, setting up for retirement, especially under the age of like 50s and 60s at this point, we're going to have a lot more of our income. We're going to have to put that aside. We're not going to have the pensions and the 401ks and everything that our older generations do. We just don't have that access anymore. So we're going to have to make up far more of our own income in retirement. So the sooner you can get on the train of investing, or even like you said, just putting money aside. And when you get to a point where you're comfortable to start peeling that away and putting it into an investment account to have that potentially grow for you across however many years, that's so much more important than it used to be, because we're going to have to rely on so much more of our own income, and we're really going to have to work hard for it. So our social securities, we're going to get it, but it's going to look so much different than what our parents and our grandparents look like. So getting ahead of that right now, we've seen a lot of younger people actually start to do like custodial IRAs if they're minors, because they're realizing like you won't have, a lot of companies don't even offer 401ks. They're starting to peel those away, or they're dropping the matching percentages. So we're going to have to just keep saving and saving and saving. And it never hurts to get a second opinion. That's another thing that my team offers, is we offer financial plans. And it doesn't mean you have to come in and commit to anything. You know, maybe you just look at what your budget is, what your goal is when you want to retire, what your social security numbers look like. And if it's even feasible for right now to have some money squirreled away, or it maybe just makes more sense to pay off the debt or save up that emergency fund. And we do that, that's free. We do that for our members, because there's so much that's all those moving pieces. It's really hard sometimes to just sit down and figure that out by yourself. So that's where we can come in and just kind of give you like a little bit of guidance. And that's also where we kind of lean on the financial wellness department when they're looking for that structure to help. And then maybe they'll come back once they have an idea. So I feel like the financial wellness and the FCs really do go hand in hand with each other when it comes to that.
No, that's so helpful. Thank you. That was quite honestly a selfish question, just because I know I'm trying to like get myself set up and figure out there's so many things that you need to do to save for retirement. And yeah, like I had said, you hear wealth management and you're like, well, I don't have quote unquote.
Yes. Yes.
But
No,
yeah,
we don't have minimums. A lot of people, especially I've seen a lot of high school students come in lately. And
great.
I'm wondering it's part of like the internship where Visions Community goes out, and they're actually directly in the high schools now. A lot of them are starting to open up like Roth IRAs. And even if just $50 throughout the summer while they're working before they go back to school, that little bit just accumulates. So getting them started early and being out in the community like you guys have been, I think is phenomenal. And I think it's a huge help to have them know like this is an option.
That's great. That's great. That's so important to have kind of the next generation to have that information and to have that knowledge. You try and educate the next generation better than you were before. So that's fantastic. And that's a testament to Lucy's team and what Lucy has done with Visions in the past. But are there any other questions? I mean, if anybody's got anything, they can speak right up or pop it right in the chat. We do have a little bit more time before we have to finish up here.
I do see one. You don't have to be a member to meet with a financial consultant here at Visions. You can just walk in, give us a call, and we can just schedule an appointment. And for the financial planning and whatnot, I would just say bring any statements you have, any debt, anything that you can think of that would affect your financial picture when you first meet with one of our FCs. Just bring that all in. And that way we have more of a picture that's specific to you, and we can kind of give you more personalized advice at that point. But you don't have to be a member.
I want to add on to what Alyssa said. So the financial wellness team, so the team that Ashley and I work on, also provides financial counseling. So not financial advising, not financial consulting, but if you wanted someone to sit down with you, look at maybe paying down debt, building a budget, building a savings plan, maybe you feel like you're maybe ready to get into that investing atmosphere, but you're not quite sure. Stop in with Ashley and I first, or someone on our team, and we can help you determine if you're ready to go on to that investing, or just different parts of your financial plan that we can help with as well. And that is a free benefit that we offer not only to members, but to community members alike. So you do not have to be a member to take advantage of the financial wellness team's financial counseling either.
Great. Well, if we have no more questions, thank you all so much, Alyssa, Lucy, Ashley. This was super informative. I know I learned a lot, just being able to sit in on this, and I have kind of a mental checklist of some things that I need to do myself. But thank you so much. We so appreciate our relationship that we have with Visions. Visions has been an amazing supporter and sponsor of the incubator since I think we've opened. So we so appreciate your support and everything that you guys do for us. But thank you to everyone who has attended. We're so glad that we're able to offer these webinars on so many different topics, like I had said earlier. If you are not following the Koffman, or would like to get more information on these webinars, feel free to head over to our website, sign up through our email list, and you'll be added to get all of this information every month. But thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.